The wind cut through the broken streets like sharp glass. It carried the bitter smell of smoke and frost. In the middle of the ruined city stood the old market. Once it had been full of voices and light. Now it was only shadows and desperate whispers. Among the broken stalls stood a mother. Her skin was pale blue, her clothes torn and thin. She held her daughter close. The little girl was no older than 7. Her eyes wide, her lips trembling from the cold. The mother's hands shook as she wrapped her arms around the child. She had nothing left but her child. Around her, traders shouted in rough voices. They sold scraps of metal, frozen bread, and dirty blankets. A blanket was worth more than silver in this frozen world. The mother knew her daughter would not last another night without one. Her heart broke as she made her choice. She stepped toward a stall. Her voice was low, almost broken. She offered the only thing she had left. Her daughter, the words tasted like poison. She whispered, "Please take her." "I need a blanket," her daughter clung to her. Not fully understanding, the traders turned to look. Some sneered, some laughed. They had seen many things in this dead city, but even this was cruel. The little girl's eyes filled with tears. She pressed her face into her mother's chest. The mother could not look at her child. She stared at the ground, waiting for an answer. Then, another voice spoke. It was calm, deep, and carried across the silent market. A human stood at the edge of the crowd. His coat was thick, his face rough from years of battle and storms. His eyes burned with something different, not greed but anger and pity. He walked forward slowly. Every step echoed on the frozen stones. The traders stepped back, whispering. No one trusted humans. Some feared them, some hated them, but no one could ignore them. The human stopped in front of the mother and child. He looked at the woman, then at the girl. The girl's small fingers clung tighter to her mother's torn sleeve. The human's jaw tightened. His voice was steady when he spoke. "You would give her away." "For a blanket," he said. The mother lowered her head in shame, her voice cracked as she answered, "She will die. I cannot keep her warm. I cannot watch her die." Her tears froze on her cheeks before they could fall. The market grew still. No one spoke. They all waited to see what the human would do. Slowly, the man reached into his pack. He pulled out a thick wool blanket. It was clean, heavy, and warm. He placed it over the child's shoulders. The little girl gasped softly. Her eyes widened as the warmth wrapped around her small body. The mother's breath caught in her throat. She did not understand. She tried to speak, but no words came. She had expected cruelty, maybe even violence. But this human was giving, not taking. The traders murmured in disbelief. They could not understand why a human would waste such value. The human ignored them. He looked at the mother again. His eyes hard but gentle. "Keep her," he said. "She is not for trade." The mother's knees gave way. She fell to the ground, clutching her daughter to her chest. Her sobs were quiet but full of relief. The little girl buried her face in the blanket, breathing warmth for the first time in weeks. The human looked around the market, his gaze sharp, challenging anyone to step closer. None dared. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of the storm outside. The mother lifted her head, her voice shaking. Why would you help us?" The human did not answer at first. He looked at the child, then at the mother. Finally, he said, "Because you should not have to beg for life." His words were simple, but they carried power. The traders shifted nervously. They did not like this. They did not like kindness. Kindness could start fires more dangerous than war. The human turned. He motioned for the mother to follow. She hesitated, torn between fear and hope. But the child pulled at her hand, her eyes bright for the first time. She wanted to go, and so, in the heart of the dead city, where survival was worth more than love, a human chose to give instead of take, and in that moment, a story began that no one in the market would ever forget. The storm outside the ruined city grew stronger. Ice shards clattered against broken walls. The human moved through the market with the mother and child behind him. His steps were steady, but every pair of alien eyes followed them. Some filled with hatred, others with envy. The mother's heart pounded. Her daughter's small hand clung tightly to her fingers. She could not believe what had happened. A human had given them a blanket without taking her child. No one in the market understood it, not even her. "Why did you do that?" she whispered as they passed a frozen arch. Her voice was hoarse, full of suspicion and fear. The human did not stop walking. His broad shoulders blocked the icy wind. His answer came slow, calm. "Because she is a child. Children are not for trade, he said. The mother flinched at his words. Her people had once believed the same. But war and famine had turned everything upside down. Honor was gone, families were broken. Survival was the only law, she wanted to argue. But the blanket around her daughter's shoulders was too warm, too real. They left the market and entered the open ruins. The streets were endless corridors of shattered stone and glass. The child stumbled, her feet weak from hunger. The human bent down and lifted her easily into his arms. The girl gasped in surprise but did not fight. She curled against his chest, her small fingers gripping the edges of the blanket. The mother watched with a mix of shame and wonder. She had offered her daughter away, yet here this stranger carried her as if she were his own. "Where are you taking us?" she asked finally. Her words trembled. "Somewhere safer," he replied. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. They walked for hours through the storm. The mother struggled to keep pace, but the human slowed when she fell behind. He seemed tireless, a man carved from stone. His breath never faltered, his eyes always scanning the shadows. The ruins were not empty. Shapes moved in the distance. Hungry eyes glowed faintly in the dark alleys. The mother's skin prickled with fear. She had lived here long enough to know the dangers. Thieves, slavers, and worse, they hunted weakness, and she and her child were the weakest of all. But now the human was with them, and the shadows kept their distance. At last they reached the edge of the city. Beyond it stretched a frozen plain. White winds howled across the wasteland. The human set the child down gently. He crouched to meet her eyes, his voice softened. "Can you walk a little more?" he asked. The girl nodded bravely, her small face still pale but lit with determination. She held her mother's hand and whispered, "He is kind." The mother's throat tightened. She could not remember the last time her daughter had spoken with hope. They moved onto the plain. The snow reached their ankles, the sky above was dark. Twin moons hidden by thick clouds, every gust of wind bit into their skin. The mother's legs ached, she stumbled often. But the human always steadied her with a strong hand. "Why risk yourself?" she finally asked. Her suspicion returned with every step. Humans are not known for kindness. "Why us?" The human's eyes narrowed as he stared into the storm. "Because too many turn away. Because too many pretend they do not see. I will not be one of them." His words were firm, heavy with something she did not understand. The mother lowered her head. She wanted to believe, but trust was dangerous. Every kindness she had once known had ended in betrayal. She kept her silence, letting the storm swallow her doubts. As the night deepened, the human guided them into the wreckage of an old transport ship. The hull groaned in the wind, but inside it was sheltered from the worst of the storm. He lit a small flame using a strange human device. The warmth filled the broken chamber. The girl pressed close to the fire, her cheeks glowing in the flickering light. For the first time in weeks, her shivers began to fade. The mother sat nearby, clutching the blanket. She looked at the human across the fire. His face was rough, scarred, and tired, yet there was strength in his eyes. "You do not know us," she whispered. "You do not owe us anything." The human leaned back against the metal wall. His voice was low. "Maybe I do not owe you, but I cannot stand and watch while a mother begs for her child's life. That is not who I am." The silence stretched, broken only by the crackle of fire and the sigh of the storm outside. The mother felt a tear slide down her cheek. This time it was not from shame or fear, but something unfamiliar, something close to hope. Her daughter leaned against her side, already drifting to sleep in the warmth. The blanket wrapped tight around her tiny frame. The mother placed a hand over her daughter's hair. She looked at the human once more, and for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, this man could change their fate. The fire inside the broken ship burned low. The mother sat awake, her daughter curled against her side. The child slept peacefully for the first time in many nights. The mother could not sleep. Her eyes stayed on the human who rested against the wall. His face half lit by the flames, his eyes never fully closed. She wondered what kind of man he was. No human she had ever seen acted this way. Most were soldiers, raiders, or cold traders. Yet this one had saved them without asking for anything. She feared it was a trick. Yet in her heart a small seed of trust had begun to grow. When morning came, the storm still raged outside. The human rose and kicked snow away from the exit. His movements were strong and calm. The mother pulled her daughter close. "Where are we going?" she asked. Her voice soft. "Farther than here," he said. "There is a place with walls, food, and heat. It is not close." But we can reach it if we keep moving. The mother hesitated. The thought of walking through endless snow filled her with dread. But she had no choice. Her daughter could not survive if they stayed. She nodded weakly. The human gave her a ration pack. She sniffed it with suspicion. But hunger made her eat. The child nibbled quietly, her small hands clutching the food as if it might vanish. They stepped back into the storm. The wind screamed across the plain. Ice crystals stung their faces. The human walked in front, breaking the path through the snow. The mother stumbled behind him, dragging her legs forward. Her daughter clung to her side, too weak to walk on her own. Every step felt endless. The ruined city faded into the white haze behind them. The world became only storm and silence. The mother's breath came in sharp bursts. Her skin burned from the cold. Many times she almost fell. But the human always stopped. Pulling her up with a strong grip, he said little. But his actions spoke louder than words. Hours passed. The child began to cry quietly. Her lips blew. The mother's heart ached. She pulled the blanket tighter, but it was not enough. She looked at the human with desperation. He paused, then crouched in the snow. He pulled the child into his arms, holding her against his chest. The girl's tears slowed as warmth spread from his body. The mother felt shame and gratitude all at once. She walked beside him, her hands trembling. "Why do you carry her?" she whispered. "Because she cannot walk and because she matters," he answered. His voice was steady. The mother lowered her eyes. No one in her world had ever spoken like that. Not since the war had broken her people. Not since hope had died. She followed silently, each step echoing those words. By nightfall, they found the skeleton of an old tower buried in snow. The human led them inside. The walls were cracked, but it gave shelter from the wind. He built another fire. Using the last of his fuel tablets, the flames flickered, painting shadows across the ruined metal. The girl curled beside the warmth, drifting into sleep. The mother sat opposite the human. Her voice was hesitant. "You could have left us. You could have taken what you wanted and gone."
"Why do you help us?" The human's eyes were fixed on the fire.
His face unreadable after a long silence, he said, "Because I have seen too many children die. I have seen too many mothers give up. If I can stop it even once, then I must." The mother felt her chest tighten. His words were simple, but they cut deep. She thought of all the times she had begged strangers, all the times she had been ignored. And here was a human, a stranger himself, giving without demand. Outside, the storm roared. But inside the ruined tower there was quiet. The mother leaned back against the cold wall. For the first time she allowed her eyes to close. The weight of fear eased slightly. Her last thought before sleep was a whisper of wonder. Could this human truly be the difference between death and life? The fire burned low. The human stayed awake, watching the shadows, his hand never far from the weapon at his side. The storm was not the only danger in the wasteland. He knew eyes were watching, waiting. He had chosen to protect them, and he would not fail. The storm outside howled like a living beast, but inside the ruined tower, the small fire kept them alive. The crackle of flames filled the silence. The human sat against a broken wall, his weapon resting across his lap. His eyes stayed sharp, scanning the shadows beyond the flickering light. The mother sat across from him, her daughter curled in her arms. The child slept soundly, her breath soft and even, the blanket wrapped tightly around her small body. For the first time in many nights, she did not shiver. The mother stroked her daughter's hair, her own eyes heavy with exhaustion. Still, she could not sleep. Her gaze kept moving back to the human. He sat so still, yet there was strength in the way he carried himself. She wondered how many battles he had seen, how many storms he had walked through. She wondered why such a man would waste his time on her and her child. "Who are you?" she asked finally. Her voice was a whisper, almost afraid to break the quiet. The human's eyes flicked to her. His face was half hidden by the firelight. "No one important," he answered simply. But she shook her head. "You are not no one. Men like you do not come here without reason." Her voice cracked. "Why help us when others turned away?" The human's jaw tightened. He did not answer at once. His gaze returned to the fire. The silence stretched. Finally he said, "Because I know what it is to lose. I know what it is to be left behind." His voice was low, rough, and carried the weight of memory. The mother felt her chest ache, her lips parted, but no words came. She looked at her sleeping daughter, then slowly she began to speak. "My people were proud once," she whispered. "We had cities, we had songs, but the war came, the soldiers came. They took everything, they burned our homes. They scattered our families. Her hands tightened around her daughter. I lost my mate that day. He fought to protect us. He never returned. Her voice trembled. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I ran with her, my little one. I begged, I traded, I crawled through the ashes. Every day I told myself I could keep her safe. But every night the cold grew stronger and my hope grew weaker until today. I was ready to give her away. She lowered her head in shame. The human listened in silence. He did not interrupt. His face did not show pity, only understanding. When she finished, he nodded once. You survived, he said. That is not shame. That is strength. Her eyes widened at his words. No one had ever called her strong. No one had ever spoken to her without judgment. The weight in her chest shifted. She felt a strange warmth, one that was not from the fire. Her daughter stirred in her sleep, a small hand slipping free from the blanket. The human leaned forward and tucked the cloth tighter around her. The gesture was simple, but it struck the mother deeply. She whispered, "She smiles more with you here. She trusts you." The human gave a faint, tired smile. "Children see truth more clearly than adults," he said. The fire crackled. The storm outside slowly began to fade. The mother felt her eyes grow heavy. For the first time in years, she let herself close them. Her daughter safe in her arms, the human watching over them. But the night was not free of danger. In the distance, beyond the broken walls, faint figures moved through the snow. Shadows slithered closer, drawn by the scent of fire and life. Slavers and scavengers hungry for prey. The human's eyes narrowed. His hand gripped the weapon at his side. He had known they would come. He had chosen this place not only for shelter but for defense. He would not let them take what he had promised to protect. The mother slept unaware, dreaming of warmth. The child breathed peacefully. But the human remained awake, silent and ready. The storm outside was ending, yet another storm was about to begin. And in the flicker of the dying fire, he prepared himself. For he knew that true safety was never given, it was defended. The night had grown quiet, but the human's sharp eyes saw what the mother could not. Dark shapes moved in the snow outside the ruined tower, their footsteps muffled, their bodies cloaked in rags and armor made from scrap. Slavers, drawn by the faint glow of fire and the promise of helpless prey. The mother slept against the wall, her daughter curled in her arms. The human rose slowly, careful not to wake them. He tightened the strap of his weapon, his breath steady. He had seen men like these before. He knew their cruelty, and he would not allow it here. The first shadow slipped into the tower's entrance. His eyes gleamed with hunger when he spotted the sleeping mother and child. But before he could take another step, the human's voice cut through the silence. "Leave," he said. His tone was calm, but it carried the weight of steel. The slaver froze, then laughed, a harsh, broken sound. Others followed behind him, half a dozen men armed with blades and crude rifles. Their leader stepped forward, a tall brute with scars across his face, his teeth bared in a cruel smile. "You think you can keep them?" the leader sneered. "That woman owes more than she can ever pay. The girl belongs to us. Step aside, human. You cannot fight us all." The mother stirred, her eyes snapping open. Fear filled her as she saw the slavers. She pulled her daughter close, her voice breaking. "No, please," the child whimpered, her small hands clutching the blanket tighter, her eyes wide with terror. The human stepped between them and the slavers, his stance unshaken, his eyes locked on the leader. "She owes you nothing," he said. "They are not yours." The slavers roared with laughter. One spat on the ground, big words, another hissed. "But one man cannot stop six." The leader raised his hand. "Take them," he ordered. They rushed forward, blades glinting in the firelight. The human moved like a storm, his weapon swung, striking the first slaver across the jaw. The man fell hard to the ground. Another lunged with a knife. But the human twisted aside, slamming his elbow into the attacker's throat. The sound of choking filled the air. Gunfire erupted, crude bullets sparking against the metal walls. The mother screamed and shielded her daughter. The child cried into her chest. But the human stood firm. His rifle barked once. A sharp flash, a slaver dropped, his weapon clattering against stone. The others hesitated, their laughter gone, replaced by fear. The human's presence was like a wall, unyielding. Every movement precise, every strike final. The storm outside raged. But inside the tower, another battle burned brighter. The leader snarled, his scarred face twisted in rage. "You cannot save them, human. We will take them, or we will kill you." The human's eyes narrowed. "Try," he said. They clashed again. The tower shook with the sound of boots and steel. The fire flickered wildly, casting long shadows. The mother held her daughter close, whispering prayers she had not spoken in years. She watched with wide eyes as the stranger fought for them. His body a shield, his will unbroken at last. Only the leader remained. His men lay scattered, groaning or silent in the snow. The brute's smile faded as he saw the truth. This human was no ordinary wanderer. He raised his blade with a roar and charged. The human met him head-on. Their weapons clashed, sparks flew. The brute swung with all his strength. But the human was faster. He stepped inside the strike. Driving his fist into the slaver's chest, the leader stumbled, gasping. His knees buckled, and he crashed to the ground. Silence filled the tower. The only sounds were the crackle of fire and the storm outside. The human stood over the fallen leader, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. His eyes burned with quiet fury. The mother stared at him, her heart racing. She had seen men fight before, but never like this, never with such purpose. She whispered, "Why? Why risk your life for us?" The human turned, his gaze softening as it fell on the child. She peered at him from the safety of the blanket. Her eyes still wet with tears, he knelt beside her, his voice gentle. "Because no one should grow up in chains," he said. "And no mother should be forced to give up her child." The mother's throat tightened. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She could not find words. Only gratitude filled her soul. Her daughter pressed close, whispering. "He saved us." The human looked at them both, his face tired but calm. "We cannot stay here," he said. "Others will come. We move at first light." The mother nodded, clutching her daughter tightly, her fear still strong, but now joined by something else, trust. And as the storm outside began to break, a fragile hope rose within her heart. For the first time in years, she believed they might have a future, not just survival, but a life. Dawn broke over the frozen wasteland. The storm had passed, leaving silence across the plain. The tower stood like a broken tooth against the sky. Around it, bodies of slavers lay scattered, their weapons half buried in snow. The fire had long died, and the air was heavy with smoke and frost. The mother stood near the doorway, her daughter pressed close to her side. She watched the human gather supplies. His movements were calm and precise, as if he had done this 1,000 times before. He checked his weapon, secured his pack, then turned to them. "We cannot stay," he said. His voice was steady. "More will come." "They always come." The mother nodded, though fear flickered in her eyes. She tightened her grip on her daughter's hand. The child looked up at the human with quiet trust. The blanket still wrapped around her small shoulders. They stepped into the morning light. The plain stretched endlessly before them, white and cold. The mother's legs were weak, but she forced herself forward. The human walked ahead, his figure cutting a path through the snow. His presence was a shield against the emptiness. Hours passed, the wind bit at their faces. The child stumbled often, and each time the human lifted her into his arms without complaint. The mother watched silently, her chest heavy with emotions she could not name. Shame for what she had nearly done, gratitude for what he had given, fear for what might come. At last the land changed. The white plain gave way to broken hills and jagged stone. The human led them carefully, guiding them into a canyon hidden from the open sky. The wind grew quieter here. The walls high and dark, the mother felt unease, yet also a strange sense of safety. The canyon twisted, then opened to a hidden valley. At its center stood a shelter, built from scavenged metal and stone. Smoke curled from a chimney, faint but steady. The mother froze in shock. She had never seen such a place. "This is mine," the human said. His voice was low but sure. "Safe from storms, safe from slavers, you will be safe here too. If you choose to stay." The mother's breath caught. She looked at the shelter, then at him. Her voice shook. Why would you give this to us?" The human's gaze hardened, though his words were soft. "Because no one should live in fear forever." Inside the shelter it was warm. A fire burned bright, the wall strong against the wind. The child ran to it with wide eyes. She touched the rough furniture, the blankets folded neatly, the shelves lined with food and tools. For her it was a wonderland. The mother stood frozen at the door. Her heart pounded, she could not understand it. A stranger had fought for them, carried them, and now offered them a home. Trust was dangerous, she knew. Trust had broken her before. Yet her daughter's laughter filled the room. Light and pure, she had not heard that sound in so long. "You should rest," the human said. His tone was firm but kind. "You are safe here." The mother lowered her head. "Safe," she repeated softly. The word felt strange on her tongue. As if she had forgotten its meaning, she moved to the fire, her daughter clinging to her hand. She sat down, feeling warmth seep into her bones that night. The child slept in comfort for the first time since the war began. The mother lay awake, staring at the roof of the shelter. Her mind a storm of questions. Why him? Why now? Could she believe in this? Or would it all shatter again? The human sat near the door, his weapon within reach. His eyes steady, guarding the night. He did not ask for thanks. He did not ask for trust. He only kept watch. The mother turned her head, whispering so softly she barely heard herself. "Maybe this is a new beginning." Her daughter shifted in her sleep. Smiling even in dreams, the human did not speak. But his presence was answer enough outside. The frozen world waited with its dangers. But inside the shelter, hope had taken root, fragile yet alive. And in that fragile hope, a family was beginning to form. The hidden shelter became their world. The storm outside raged and faded, but within those walls there was warmth. The child laughed again, chasing sparks from the fire. Her voice filled the air like music. The mother watched her with wide eyes, every smile a reminder that life had not yet been stolen from them. The human worked quietly, fixing tools, stacking supplies, mending walls where the wind crept in. He spoke little, but his actions spoke enough. He gave them food without demand, protection without payment, and time without complaint. The mother could not understand it. She had learned to believe that nothing came free. Yet this man gave freely. Days passed. The child grew stronger. Her cheeks lost their pale shadow. She followed the human often, watching him with curiosity. She asked questions in her small voice. "Why do you carry that weapon? Why do you never smile?" He would answer in simple words, sometimes with silence, but always with patience. The mother watched from a distance, her heart torn. Each act of kindness pulled her closer to trust. But the scars of betrayal still burned at night when the child slept. She whispered to him, "You will not always be here." "Will you?" The human's eyes stayed on the fire, his voice low. "I go where I am needed, but while I am here, you are safe." The mother lowered her head. The word safe still felt fragile, like thin glass that might shatter at any moment. Yet each day it grew stronger. She began to believe, slowly, that maybe this shelter could be more than just walls. Maybe it could be home, but the world outside did not forget them. Slavers returned, searching for their lost men. Their shadows passed near the canyon, yet they never found the hidden valley. The human watched from above, his weapon ready, his silent presence a warning to any who dared to step closer. The mother saw him return from these watches, snow covering his shoulders, eyes sharp and cold. She knew he carried the burden of their safety alone. Her heart ached with guilt and gratitude. She whispered one night, "Why do you carry us?" "When no one carried you." He looked at her then, his gaze steady. "Because someone must, if not me." "Then who?" The words struck deep. They were simple, yet they carried the truth of all humanity. Compassion where others showed cruelty, strength where others gave up, hope where there was none. Her daughter's voice broke the silence. The child woke from sleep and whispered softly, "He is our home." Her small hands clung to the blanket he had given her. Her eyes shone with innocent certainty. Tears filled the mother's eyes. She pulled her daughter close. She looked across the fire at the human. Her lips trembled. "You are more than we deserve," she whispered. The human shook his head. "No," he said, "you deserve to live. You deserve warmth. You deserve hope." The room fell quiet. Only the fire crackled. The mother felt something inside her shift. A heavy weight she had carried for years lifted. For the first time since the war, she did not feel broken. Days turned into weeks. The mother began to help with small tasks, gathering wood, preparing food, keeping the shelter clean. The human never asked, yet she gave. The child learned to laugh again, her voice echoing against the walls. The sound became their song. One evening, the mother sat by the fire, her daughter asleep beside her. She looked at the human and whispered words she had never dared to say. "You gave us more than a blanket, you gave us life." The human's eyes softened. He did not answer, he did not need to. His silence was enough. The mother closed her eyes, her heart steady for the first time in years. The child dreamed peacefully and the human kept his watch, guarding not just their bodies but the fragile hope they had found together. And in that hidden valley, in a galaxy scarred by cruelty and fear, humanity shone bright not through power, not through conquest but through compassion. A human had chosen to give instead of take, to protect instead of destroy, to carry hope instead of despair. And for the alien mother and her daughter, that choice meant everything.